Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your very first time to the channel, welcome. If you're following me on New Tech and or a dedicated subscriber here on YouTube, I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support.
All right, guys, so we started off with Yahoo Finance. Vaccine mandates, Supreme Court likely to weigh in before this pandemic is over. Well, that's encouraging to know that the pandemic, hopefully at some point, will actually be over. Within days, the White House is expected to publish its eagerly anticipated directive requiring employees with at least 100 workers to ensure their employees are either vaccinated against C-19 or tested weekly. The White House Regulatory Office has completed its last steps before publishing the directive that will be issued by the Labor Department, according to Bloomberg Law. Many private and public employees have issued their own vaccine and testing mandates, which will likely overlap with the federal directive. Now, don't you find this language interesting? As though it is the government that is allowing us as the people, allowing businesses to essentially do what we're supposed to do to begin with, and that is we, the people. We tell the government what to do, not the other way around. Yes, we legislate, we have legislation, and then, of course, we vote on laws for the government to enforce, but the mandate is an emergency measure that really doesn't have any legal backing to it. In other words, it can't be enforced legally. And the reason the Supreme Court would have to weigh in, of course, is because if you make a mandate that does require that people do X, Y, and Z, then, of course, that's going to be an issue. That will be a conflict of the Constitution. And that's the whole point that we've been trying to make here on the channel for quite some time, is that the president, first off, has not created anything yet. There's no law. There's no legislation. There isn't anything that he has said or presented to people outside of within the budget that they're trying to pass, with the infrastructure bill and the budget, with that, they're trying to pass the bill. Within that, there is context to him saying that if a company has over 100 workers, then they would need testing and so forth. But that's where the Supreme Court is going to step in. And I think this is what Biden has been doing. He's basically been stalling because he knows that this would not be constitutional. He knows that the Supreme Court probably would not uphold this. I can't imagine the Supreme Court siding with Biden unless, of course, they focus on the weekly testing, right, or opt out, or religious purposes. And actually in this video, they discuss the religious aspect of it. And of course, people can present a religious reasoning for not getting the vaccine. But of course, private businesses can say, well, the impact of this individual exercising their religious right impacts our business, and therefore we can't maintain their employment because there's a conflict of our interest. So that's kind of where these lines get kind of blurry as far as like how much power a private business has versus an individual. And of course, individual as an individual has, of course, the full Constitution and the Bill of Rights behind them. But then, of course, when you're talking about private business, it's a different matter. So from the Washington Examiner, White House eases vaccine mandate enforcement aimed fears of dropped contracts. So again, we have this same language where it is the White House who is making the decision. It is the government that is making the decision on how things happen in our life. Now, it is important to emphasize here that when we vote on legislation and law, yes, then the government is there to enforce that law. But when it comes to these vaccine mandates, I can't emphasize enough, there is no real legal precedent behind it. These are just kind of very weighty words, or kind of leveraging by government or the president to try to get people to go in a particular direction. Now, the government can suggest, it can recommend, it can encourage, but it can't make people do things. And if you guys follow me on social media, you would have seen my post where I showed from the Jimmy Dore show where Dr. Fauci, Nancy Pelosi, and the president himself said they can't force mandates. They can't make mandates happen. In their own words, it was absolutely stunning, and of course the mainstream media simply doesn't cover it. The White House is giving federal contractors more flexibility in how they enforce the vaccine mandate. AIM fears that the edict could cause companies to drop contracts. There you go, right there. decree, and edict. It has no legal precedence. It's the language. Look at the language they're using. They're trying to give it weight. They're trying to give it this sense of importance about how it's, either the government will do X, Y, and Z if people don't do A, B, and C. And it should be the other way around. And I think it's interesting that they're saying that the White House is easing vaccine mandates. In reality, it's the Americans pushing back and saying, hey, it's principle. We're basing this on principle. You can't force people to have a procedure done. So in updated guidance released on Monday morning, the Biden administration said it will be up to the contractors how they wish to deal with workers who refuse to comply with the president's orders to be fully vaccinated by December the 8th. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Biden acting like the mafioso, telling businesses, well, if you don't get the vaccines that we're asking you for, or you don't get the testing negative, positive results, then maybe you don't get your licenses, maybe you don't get your certificates, maybe you don't get your funding, maybe you don't get your support from the federal government, maybe we might take it away from you. It's basically what's going on here. It's a shell game. It's really just who blinks first. And the American people are pushing back, and I'm glad to see that now the White House is getting this attention. And as we get closer to these deadlines, we had like a November deadline, now we got a December deadline, and the president is really, really on thin ice right now, trying to push this nonsense on people. And you see here, new poll shows Democrats prefer someone other than Biden in 2024. Now, granted, this is coming from the conservative brief, but suffice it to say, Joe Biden has gotten some news about his chances to win the presidency again in 2024, and it is likely not what he wanted to hear. This is no surprise. I think Joe Biden never intended to run in 2024. This was all part of the establishment to ensure that President Trump was not elected. This is something that we've talked about many, many times here. And if we look at the aggregate here from Real Clear Politics, we can see that his approval is now currently at 43% and his disapproval at 51.1. Not sure where I came up with 54. Oh, I know where I got it from. Is in the next Civex. I'll show you in a second. But here on the aggregate from Real Clear Politics from the various news agencies, as you can see here, it is quite an extensive list. But nonetheless, you can see here that as of November the 3rd, as of this recording on Wednesday, November the 3rd, his disapproval is at 51.1 and his approval is at 43, which for a Democrat is actually not very good. Because Democrats, of course, have the full weight of the mainstream media, entertainment industry, and social media tech giants to ensure that he is in the, best of light, unlike President Trump, where he had a great deal of negativity. And if we look here at the Civex outline, and I like Civex because, of course, they use a wider response. As you can see here, 121,663 responses here showing a 53% disapproval and a 37% approval. So very significant. And if we look here among independents, which is really the important factor here, because your independent voters, let me make sure it's on independent here real quick. It's kind of jumping around on me. You can see here 62 disapprove and 23 approve. So when we look at, for example, this article from Yahoo Finance and then this article from Washington Examiner, it's having an impact. There is an impact being made here by the American citizens as the way it should be, we the people. And finally, it's coming down to the wire for President Biden, I should say, not Trump, but President Biden. It's coming down to the wire for him. And if you guys watch my Wednesday video, if you haven't already, of course, make sure you check out the most impactful latest election for governors in Virginia and in New Jersey, because we go over this from a previous video. So make sure you guys check that out, because this is all having a major impact. This has been very devastating to the Democrats, and it is a very interesting moment, as we heard from Kamala Harris, a bellwether moment. And she is indeed right. So I hope people were paying attention to what she said, because she was actually correct. And in that sense, the Democrats should be very, very, very concerned. And so I just wanted to share this, guys, with you. And that's what I have for you on this Friday.
All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the comments. Thank you to all of you who have started following me on New Tech, as well as the standard social media. You can find all those links to my social media below this video where I do daily post. And of course, appearing right there on the screen, that would be the channel icon here on YouTube for you guys to click on and subscribe, and to select notifications if you want to know when there is content here on the channel. Thanks to all of you guys in New Tech as well who have given me follows. I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support. And of course, I'll see all of you right there behind that camera next week.